So for the first time since the Milwaukee Bucks just drafted Giannis Antetokounmpo back in 2013, it feels inevitable that they are going to be trading him within the next few months. We thought there was a chance Giannis could have gotten traded back in 2020. They go out and trade for Drew Holiday. They win an NBA title. We thought there was a chance he could get traded in 2023. They go out and trade for Damian Lillard. He also signs an extension. But at this point right now, with Giannis having basically an expiring contract next year, he's going to opt out of that 2028 player option. And with the Bucks having the roster they have right now, almost 10 games under 500 in a weak Eastern Conference, it does make sense for both sides to part ways. And for today's video, I wanted to go through every single realistic trade destination for Giannis Antetokounmpo, why I think it could happen, why I don't think it could happen, the hurdles they would have to go through for this deal to get done. And I would love to know your favorite Giannis trade destination down below that you think is somewhat realistic. And I'll preface this as well. I don't know if I really want to see Giannis get traded. I mean, I'm a Knicks fan. I don't have an attachment to Giannis like Bucks fans do, but he's arguably the greatest player in their franchise history for a smaller market. I don't really want to see it end like this. I think it's fascinating to see like Steph Curry, Tim Duncan, Dirk Nowitzki play their entire careers with one team. Like in 20 years from now, you're going to think of the Milwaukee Bucks, you're going to think of Giannis Antetokounmpo, and I think it's really cool if he spends his whole career with one squad, but it's really tough to make that happen. The way that they just whiffed on the Damian Lillard trade, the way that they whiffed on the draft, basically every single pick since Dante DiVincenzo back in 2018. So it comes to a point where it just makes sense for the Milwaukee Bucks to also capitalize on Giannis, a top 30 player of all time, maybe at his peak in a trade return. And I'll say Dallas Mavericks fans, maybe just shield your eyes when the Giannis trade return comes out, because this is what maybe Nico Harrison could have gone for Luka Doncic if he actually made him available league-wide. So Giannis has also dropped some tidbits in the past that he would like to play in a big market. He'd like to play in the Big Apple in New York, maybe Los Angeles. So that is just going to make some of these teams by default appealing Giannis Antetokounmpo trade destinations, because he could also just leave any team he wants next year and become a free agent in 2027, which does make the Bucks lose a little bit of leverage. So if Giannis is essentially an expiring contract in the offseason, him giving the team an agreement that he will sign an extension plays a huge factor in this deal. Yes, there's other teams that can offer a better trade package, but if Giannis is not going to give them a 100% guarantee that he would re-sign with them, you can't trade for him. And that's why I think it could also make more sense for Giannis to get traded in the offseason rather than at the deadline, just because some of these teams can offer an additional first round pick or two when we get to the offseason. Most of these teams cannot trade their 2026 first rounder right now if their 2027 first rounder is a swap or a first round pick going elsewhere. But on the night of the 2026 draft, you could trade that first round pick plus your 2033 first round pick becomes available for trade. So let's just get into these Giannis trade ideas going forward. Obviously, the LA Lakers have to at least call the Milwaukee Bucks if Giannis is willing to sign an extension with the Los Angeles Lakers. Yeah, Luka Doncic and Giannis sounds very exciting for the next 4+ years, and this would be the deal the Lakers would have to offer. Like I'm going to mention, for a lot of these big market teams, a lot of other teams can offer better returns if Giannis has a select few teams that he wants to go to. So this one would be Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, who does have a player option at the end of the year, in which the Bucks would have to now re-sign Reeves for over $40 million a year or something like that. Jared Vanderbilt, Gabe Vincent, and then first round pick swaps in 2028, 2030, 2031, and 2032. Now, on the night of the 2026 draft, the Lakers can also include their 2026 first, and they can also include their 2033 first round swap as well in this deal. This is not the worst offer in the world. Yes, I'm very intrigued about Los Angeles Lakers picks in the 2030s, and I do like Austin Reeves, and you can maybe reroute Reeves to a different team. I also don't mind just extending Reeves and allowing him to be your franchise player, since you don't own your first round pick in any year from 2027 to 2031. So Reeves can elevate your floor. Maybe you're able to land somebody else, and who knows, maybe Reeves, Turner, added cap flexibility can make you at least a high-end playing team in the weak Eastern Conference. But the fact that Reeves is 27 years old makes me like this trade a little bit less. If Reeves was like 23, 24, even 25, I'd be more willing to view Reeves as a blue chip trade return here, because also Reeves at $13.9 million is great value right now. But how are you going to feel about Austin Reeves making north of $40 million or whatever his next extension is going to be this offseason? If there's any big name on the trade block, I have to include the Los Angeles Lakers. I just think there's going to be way better returns for Milwaukee out there, even from big market teams that maybe can't offer the best trade packages. And any LA Laker fan trying to mock a Giannis trade to Los Angeles without Austin Reeves, come on, what are we doing there? We're just getting greedy at that point. You can't have Reeves, Luka, and Giannis. It's got to be just Luka and Giannis. And then another popular Giannis trade destination destination, the New York Knicks. Now, there's basically three versions of what a Knicks Giannis trade can look like, and I'm pretty certain that when a Giannis trade happens, it's going to look very similar to one of these deals that I'd bring to you guys right now. Maybe an added pick or two, maybe an added player or two, maybe an added team or two gets roped in to this deal to become a 3 or a 4-team trade. And I would also like to guarantee that one of the teams I talk about in this video will be the team trading for Giannis. So this New York Knicks one is like the first version here. It's Karl Anthony Towns, it's Miles McBride, it's a 2026 Wizards first rounder, top 8 protected, which essentially turns into the 31st overall pick in this year's draft and another second rounder. The Knicks 2026 first rounder on the night of the draft. So if the Knicks wanted to trade for Giannis right now, they can't include that first round pick. That would be included if this trade were to happen in the offseason. 2028 swap on top of the Brooklyn swap. So Milwaukee gets the second best out of the Knicks and the Nets and the Bucks first rounders in 2028, but that also gets roped in with Portland. It gets a little confusing. 2030 pick swap with the New York Knicks as well. 2032 pick swap. And then if this were to happen in the offseason, the Knicks can include a 2033 first rounder. And yeah, I'm somewhat intrigued about the New York Knicks picks in the 2030s. The Knicks haven't really hit on many free agents in their franchise history, or at least in the 21st century, until Jalen Brunson. It feels like he's an anomaly, he's an outlier. There have been plenty of bad New York Knicks free agent signings. Courtney Lee, Joakim Noah, even Amari Stoudemire was not really looked as a great free agency signing now in hindsight. So now I'm getting control of the New York Knicks picks in 2028, 2030, 2032, and if I can get a 2033 first rounder, I don't mind the addition of Miles McBride. He's obviously under a great contract this year and next year, but the point of this would also be either you're keeping Karl Anthony Towns to elevate your floor, or you're rerouting Karl Anthony Towns to a third team. Maybe you can get one of your first round picks back from New Orleans or Portland if they're interested in Karl Anthony Towns. But yeah, I also don't think this one is a great return for Milwaukee. It would have to be Giannis only cares about going to the New York Knicks, and I don't think we're going to get to that point whatsoever, and the Knicks would have to throw in a little bit more. So instead of getting to Giannis's $54 million with Karl Anthony Towns, they could send off their two best wings in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, who, funny enough, had maybe both of their best games of the season against the Toronto Raptors after Giannis now kind of requested a trade in a way. So this one would send OG and Mikal to Milwaukee with Gershon Yabusele to make the money work. Most of the first round picks that I just talked about in the previous trade, and then you would have Giannis and Bobby Portis. The reason why this one says it's failed, because Mikal can't get traded till February 1st, given that the extension he signed pretty late in the 2025 offseason. Once again, I don't know if Milwaukee would love this deal. Yes, OG and Mikal are pretty nice pieces to have if you're not trying to tank in 2027 and 2028, since you don't own your first round pick. These guys are under contract for the next 4+ years, so you're getting stability there, and you're not worried about these guys leaving you in free agency. I think you would also just call up Portland, call up a team to see if they're interested in OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges for your picks back. I think Portland would definitely be intrigued about OG Anunoby in a swap for maybe like Jeremy Grant and Milwaukee's picks back if we can get there. So once again, I do think this return is not the best in the world, for Giannis. It's not a terrible return, but I do think they could do better. And then the last Knicks version trade is you're roping in the Portland Trail Blazers, who do own access to Milwaukee's first rounder in 2028 and 2030. So you've definitely seen the rumor of Mikal Bridges going to Portland for all of Milwaukee's picks back, and maybe even that 2028 Orlando. No, they're not getting all their picks back for Mikal Bridges, in my opinion. Why would Portland do that? Portland may be inclined to give Milwaukee their 2028 first rounder just to get this deal done. Milwaukee says, all right, at least we have our own first rounder in 2028. Whatever happens in 2027 happens in 2027, and we could have a reason to maybe bottom out in 2028. While Portland keeps Milwaukee's 2030 first, they keep all their other firsts, and they're going from essentially Drew Holiday and one first round pick to Mikal Bridges, who's 6 years younger than Drew Holiday right now, who's under contract for the next 4+ years with this core. And the Knicks are reuniting Giannis Antetokounmpo and Drew Holiday, while the Bucks are getting Karl Anthony Towns, we mentioned him earlier, Gershon Yabusele, Bakomi Dadier to make the money work. A lot of first round draft capital that we included in the previous two trades, but they're getting that 2028 first round pick back in their possession. So you would have a lineup of Jalen Brunson at the 1, Drew Holiday at the 2, you'd have OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, and Giannis out there, and then you have Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride still in your possession, Landry Shamet as well. That definitely elevates the Knicks ceiling this year. Now you think they have a really good chance at winning the Eastern Conference, and maybe a potential chance going up against teams like OKC or Denver, whoever makes it out of the West. I do think this is quite the haul for Milwaukee, and I think them getting their 2028 first round pick back from Portland would incline them to say yes in this trade, and they would reroute Karl Anthony Towns somewhere else, maybe next year or this offseason. The Knicks, I think, would also say yes to this deal as well, as you're getting Drew Holiday and Giannis, and you're only trading away Cat and Bridges. I mean, that is a lot and all your draft capital, but I do think if you win a title this year, it makes it all worth it at the end of the day. And for Portland, I think this is the best trade for them. Like I said, I've been seeing everybody throw out mock trades where Portland's giving Milwaukee all their picks back for Mikal Bridges? No, Mikal Bridges is a good player. I think he's a valuable player in a playoff series. He's not worth these Milwaukee Bucks first round picks that are maybe some of the more valuable first rounders in the league. Like Milwaukee could say, we just want one of them back. And maybe it's the 2031, maybe it's the 2028 one. And I could see Portland not passing up the opportunity of trading away Drew Holiday at his age for somebody like Mikal Bridges and only having to include one first rounder. But it's still a little bit far-fetched because you need all three teams to accept it. Another big market team that's been linked to Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Miami Heat, who I do think have a better individual trade package to offer than the New York Knicks. If they could somehow also get the Portland Trailblazers roped into this deal where one of the assets is going to Portland and Portland is giving Milwaukee one of their first round picks back, yeah, sign me up even more for Milwaukee. So this one is going to have Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis going to the Miami Heat. Tyler Hero returns home to the state of Wisconsin, where he's from. He is owed an extension very soon, so you have to take that into consideration. You take on Terry Rozier's expiring money. He's gone at the end of the year. Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez, and Kasperi Shaka-Chonis. All three of those guys need to be in a trade, in my opinion. I do not really want Nikola Jovic if I'm Milwaukee. I don't love that extension he got where he's making $15 million a year starting next season. So I want maybe a franchise center in Kel'el Ware who I could put out there with Miles Turner. I want Jaime Jaquez on a cheap year 4 rookie deal next year. And I want the project in Kasperi Shaka-Chonis, as well as Tyler Hero, who's been an all-star in the past. Plus, I'm getting 4 first-round picks in this deal. Miami can't trade that 2026 first until the offseason, which really complicates things because obviously you can't move Terry Rozier in the offseason. It's an expiring deal. But I just wanted to include both these assets here to give you the idea of what the framework could look now or in the offseason if that's where it ended up transpiring. As for Miami, you're now rolling out a lineup of maybe Davion Mitchell at the 1, Norman Powell at the 2, you keep Andrew Wiggins, and then you have a Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bam Adebayo front court. Think about how good of looks Bam would get from 3 if he's playing with Giannis, who's going to draw so much attention and gravity in the paint. And yeah, Norman Powell's getting up there in age, but you're going to re-sign him at the end of the year. You have Andrew Wiggins, who's played in the NBA Finals before. You have Davion Mitchell as your point guard still. I mean, yeah, I would do this 100% if I were the Miami Heat as well, and I do think Milwaukee gets a better return from Miami than they would from the New York Knicks, especially if they want younger players. Like the Knicks can offer Karl-Anthony Towns, who you now have to reroute to another team to get young players, which is easier said than done. Miami could just give you those young players straight up right here. Like Tyler Hero is still young. He just turned 26 years old, and it's not like he's going to fall off a cliff anytime soon. He can help you not give New Orleans a good pick in 2027 or Portland a good pick in 2028 all the way to 2030. And yeah, Miami would still have like Pele Larson coming off their bench. They would get Bobby Portis in this deal as well. I think this would make them the Eastern Conference Finals favorites. And then we have 2 Golden State Warriors trade ideas. The Warriors have been linked to Giannis. Obviously, they're trying to get that big name next to Steph Curry, the biggest name probably since Kevin Durant, since he left back in 2019. And this would do Steph right. This would give him one last hurrah and the best chance to win an NBA title. So this one is the first version involving Jimmy Butler, which easily gets you to Giannis's matching salary of $54 million. It's also going to include Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, and Will Richard. And then they're also going to include 5 first-round picks, including 2 pick swaps and 3 first-rounders, as the Warriors would be getting back Giannis Antetokounmpo and Gary Trent Jr. For Milwaukee, you would have to reroute Jimmy Butler at one point as well. The tricky thing with him, he's an expiring contract next year. Like Giannis, he could be a free agent in 2027. He's 36 years old, coming off an ACL tear. I don't know what value he's going to have across the league. Are you even going to get a chance for Jimmy Butler to play for you for 3 weeks next year leading up to the 2027 trade deadline to show rival teams that he's worth anything on the trade market? Or he could just help you next year and maybe not allow New Orleans or Atlanta to get a really good pick in the 2027 draft. But then again, now Jimmy could just leave next year anyway, and you're going to have Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, and Will Richard, who are all fine young players, but I wouldn't say are blue chip young players coming back in a Giannis trade. Yes, I'm intrigued about the Warriors first round picks post Steph, and they haven't really done a great job maximizing their roster in the Steph Curry era at this point in his career. But this is 5 first round picks here. The 2026 first rounder is not going to be a great one. The 2027 is a swap on top of a swap, but I still think the Warriors with Steph and Giannis are going to be pretty good next year as well. And I do think Steph is going to play in 2028. So now I'm really just getting 2 valuable first round picks in 2031 and 2032. And Giannis is going to be in his mid to late 30s by then. But still, who knows where the Warriors could be with cap space and Giannis Antetokounmpo still on their roster. So this trade return does not really excite me that much if I'm Milwaukee. Once again, if we can get Portland and somehow do a 3-team trade and get one of my first round picks back, I'd rather just take Miami's deal, or I'd rather take the 3-team trade with the Knicks. So this is the other version of the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade with the Golden State Warriors. This would involve Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga to get to Giannis's $54 million instead of Jimmy Butler. Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski are in this deal as well. And then the same 5 first-round picks. So instead of Milwaukee getting Jimmy Butler, they're taking out Will Richard and they're getting Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga, who definitely has more long-term upside than Jimmy Butler, sure, just because Jimmy Butler is on the decline, could retire very soon, could be a free agent very soon, but Jonathan Kuminga has a team option next year in which he could be a free agent in 2027 and leave you anyway. But now for Golden State, you're maximizing the roster next year with a big 3 of Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, and now it's all systems go for the 2027 season. So yeah, out of all those big market teams, I do feel like the Heat maybe have the best trade to offer, then the Knicks if they could rope in Portland, and then you're talking about Golden State, and then maybe the Lakers idea. Now, not as big of a market, but still in a big market technically, the Brooklyn Nets, basically the Oklahoma City Thunder of the Eastern Conference with their draft capital. They can't get to Giannis's money right now by not trading away Claxton and MPJ, so you got to include one of them in this deal, and it would make sense for them to try to pair up Giannis with Michael Porter Jr. You're also going to include Terrence Mann to make the money work, Nolan Traore, and some valuable first-round picks. You're going to include 6 first-rounders in this deal, and maybe Drake Powell would have to be in this trade. Maybe Yayo Drummond would have to be in this trade as well. So Brooklyn is sending their first-round pick this year, which could be a top 5 pick in the draft. They're also sending away a 2029 swap between Houston, Dallas, or Phoenix, 2030 first-round pick from Brooklyn, 2031 swap, 2032 Nuggets first-round pick that they just got in the Cam Johnson, Michael Porter Jr. trade, and a 2032 first-rounder. So Brooklyn here is trading 3 of their own first-rounders and 1 swap and 2 external first-rounders for Giannis Antetokounmpo. And you can make an argument that Day'Ron Sharpe could be a better long-term center than Nick Claxton. You keep Michael Porter Jr. in this trade as well. You're still going to have some financial wiggle room in the offseason if you wanted to add another point guard or shot creator on the market, say Norman Powell. Maybe you convince Trae Young or something. Now, this is definitely a good return for the Milwaukee Bucks in terms of draft capital. I'd probably want Yegor in this trade. I would want Drake Powell in this trade as well. But hey, Brooklyn is willing to part with most of their first-round picks, including their first-rounder this year. I think this gets them to the front of the line. So it's also been rumored that San Antonio might not be interested in going after Giannis Antetokounmpo, but if they were, there'd be 3 versions of this trade. I just want to keep an eye on San Antonio. I know they've operated in more of a conservative fashion throughout their franchise's history, but if Giannis is available, you got to at least take the phone call. So this one is involving Devin Vassell and draft capital. It's Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Jeremy Sohan, and Carter Bryant. And then you have 4 first-rounders, Atlanta swap this year, Atlanta's first-rounder next year, a Dallas or Minnesota swap in 2030. Could have some solid value, and a 2031 swap at Sacramento could definitely have some good value as well. You don't have to trade away any of your guards in this trade. You don't have to trade away Keldon Johnson, who could win 6th Man of the Year. So now we're running out a lineup of maybe Fox, Castle, Keldon Johnson, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Victor Wembanyama. Like, are you kidding me? That definitely goes toe-to-toe with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference. As for San Antonio, I would like a little bit more, although I do love all the draft picks they're getting back. Like, I don't want any Spurs first-round picks. You with Wemby, Giannis, and one of these young guards, like, you're going to be good. Your first-round picks mean nothing to me. So then they may also demand Dylan Harper or Stephon Castle. So this one is going to involve Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes. It would either be Dylan Harper or Stephon Castle, Jeremy Sohan, and I would remove 1 first-round pick, and I would also change one of them to San Antonio's first-rounder. So you're only giving up 2 external first-round picks and your 2032 first-rounder in this deal, since you're giving up Dylan Harper, who I also think gets you to the front of the line. If Dylan Harper is on the table in a Giannis trade, you were outbidding the Knicks, you were outbidding the Heat, you were outbidding the Warriors, and Milwaukee would have their franchise starter build around in Dylan Harper. I think this is still a really good trade for San Antonio. I just don't think they operate in this fashion right now. And then the third one, when he's trade eligible, that's why it says it's failed, because he will be trade eligible the day before the trade deadline. You're trading away De'Aaron Fox, Jeremy Sohan, Carter Bryant, and 3 first-round picks. De'Aaron Fox elevates the floor for Milwaukee. He just signed an extension with the San Antonio Spurs as well, so he's under contract for the next 4+ seasons. You take a flyer on Jeremy Sohan and Carter Bryant, and you get 3 first-round picks as well. I don't know if I would really want to make a trade unless I'm getting just a haul of draft capital, which was included in trade number 1, or Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle. And then quickly to throw Houston in here, they've also kind of been rumored to not really be super interested in Giannis as of late. We'll see if anything changes in the offseason. The first one would be, hey, you get to the front of the line if Amen Thompson is on the table. I don't even know if you'd have to include any draft capital or much of it if Amen Thompson is on the table. So right now it'd be Amen Thompson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Steven Adams, and Fred VanVleet for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah, Amen Thompson gives you a blue chip young player to build around. We all know Amen Thompson has its limitations, but you are getting one of the best young players in the league, way better than any of the big market teams have to offer in terms of players. Yes, Brooklyn can offer you very valuable first round picks, but I do think like you're going to have a really long conversation if Amen Thompson is actually on the table, because I don't think they're putting Şengün on the table. And then another one would happen in the offseason. It's really tough right now. That's why he says it's failed with the Jabari Smith Jr. poison pill. So that contract will go over north of $20 million in the offseason. So instead of trading Amen Thompson, you're trading your other three young valuable players in Tari Eason, who would have to be in a sign and trade, Reed Shepherd, and Jabari Smith Jr., as well as the Phoenix first rounder in 27, the Brooklyn swap in 27, and a Dallas Phoenix swap in 2029. Honestly, though, this is, I think, a good trade for both teams. You get three solid enough young players returning to Milwaukee, and you're getting three valuable first round picks that you can maybe call up Portland and say, hey, do you want that Brooklyn swap in 27? Do you want the Dallas Phoenix swap in 2029? Just give us one of our first round picks back. We'll give you both of those. And then I think the last like realistic team that could really happen right now, then I have some maybe far-fetched teams, the Toronto Raptors. I know the Toronto Raptors would not trade Scottie Barnes in a Giannis trade. I think they would like to keep Brandon Ingram, and I don't know if Ingram would have that much value to Milwaukee. So this one is going to send Giannis and a point guard in Kevin Porter Jr., who's having a good year, to Toronto in exchange for Emmanuel Quickley, who's been good as of late, but is still under a negative contract. RJ Barrett, who's an expiring contract next year. You have to trade away Colin Murray-Boyles. You have to throw in a blue chip young player in this deal, and Jacoby Walter, as well as 5 first round picks. Now, 5 sounds like a lot, but it's your 2026 first, not super valuable. 2027 swap. You're going to be good with Giannis, Scottie, and Ingram. Your 2028 first, I still think you're going to be good. 2030, 2031 could get a little dicey, but Scottie Barnes is still insanely young in this league. Just in case Giannis actually falls off a cliff, you keep Grady Dick, you keep Jamal Shed, you get Kevin Porter Jr. in this trade, you keep Jakob Poeltl, who you can use in a different trade down the line, you keep Mamu. Like, the Raptors would still be a very deep team, and I think if they made this trade, this would put them to the top of the line of Eastern Conference final contenders and could maybe win their first title since 2019. But you need Giannis to agree that he's going to sign an extension in Toronto, or else I'm not doing this. I can't risk it. There's been a rumor that the Minnesota Timberwolves could get involved in a Giannis trade. This one fails right now because of Naz Reid's recent extension. But yeah, it's going to be Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, and Dante DiVincenzo, as well as 3 first round picks that aren't the most valuable first rounders in the world. Sure, Minnesota's 2032 first rounder could be great, but that's really a shot in the dark at this point. Maybe you're calling up Portland and say, hey, would you give us our first round picks back for Jaden McDaniels? But I think this one is really far-fetched for Minnesota to pull off. Atlanta could definitely be interested in a Giannis trade as well. I don't think for where they are right now, they should include that New Orleans Milwaukee pick. Maybe on the night of the draft, if it falls to pick 4, sure, we can include that in this deal. But right now, it's going to be Kristaps expiring, Okongwu, and Risa Shea, 2 intriguing young players, as well as 4 first rounders. Plus, Milwaukee gets their end of the swap back in 27. Now, it's not the swap best. New Orleans still gets the swap best, but if you and New Orleans are both non-playoff teams next year, you're at least getting a lottery pick. Plus, you're getting Atlanta's first rounders in 29 and 31 and a 2032 swap. Who knows where Atlanta's going to be by then? And if you're Atlanta, you keep Jalen Johnson, you keep Dyson Daniels, you keep even Asen Newell, you keep Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and you can maybe add AJ DeBanter or somebody like that, Darren Peterson or Boozer around Giannis. I would do this if I were Atlanta. I think Milwaukee does not do this trade unless that first round swap from New Orleans or Milwaukee is on the table. I've talked about a lot how the Blazers could just orchestrate a 3-team deal. I mean, if Giannis would re-sign with the Milwaukee Bucks, why not? I don't know if Giannis will. Everything that he said in the past makes me think he wouldn't, but he gets to play with Dame and Drew Holiday again. This one would send Jeremy Grant, Robert Williams is expiring, and Scoot Henderson, a former 3rd overall pick, to Milwaukee in exchange for 2 of their first round picks back in 2028 and 2030, as well as a 2028 Orlando first. This would be a very good Blazers team with Shaedon Sharpe, Denny Avdija, Drew, Dame, Toumani Camara, Donovan Clingan, adding Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's just, I don't know if Giannis would sign an extension in Portland. I also got to talk about 2 teams that could make theoretically a 1-for-1 or close to it trade in the offseason when their rookie extensions kick in. The first one's the Orlando Magic. Could there be a Paolo Banchero for Giannis Antetokounmpo swap? Would Giannis be intrigued about the no income tax in Florida? He would already go to Miami. Would he go to Orlando? He'd play with Franz, Suggs, Black, and Desmond Bane. It fails right now because it doesn't make the money work, but hey, Paolo Banchero would get you to the front of the line in a Giannis trade. And then the same thing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I doubt they trade for Giannis. They just won an NBA title without him. They're going to be just fine going forward. But if you could turn J-Dub and maybe another pick or 2 into Giannis Antetokounmpo in the offseason, you gotta at least think about it. And then the last one, also just a Detroit Pistons idea. If they ever got into the Giannis sweepstakes, they would have to include Ivy and Asar Thompson. I think they would want to hold on to Jalen Duren, but maybe that holds the steal up. They'd have to include 5 first-round picks as well. I don't really think this is the greatest package in the world because they're gonna have Cade, they're gonna have Giannis, they're gonna have Duren still. Maybe Isaiah Stewart would have to be in this instead of Karis LeVert. I just don't think Detroit is gonna make a major switch up right now. They're the best team in the Eastern Conference. So that is gonna be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Like I said, I do believe that one of these teams here will be the inevitable Giannis Antetokounmpo team, and it will be in some way, shape, or form of the trade idea I proposed. If I had to guess, I think Giannis gets traded in the offseason. Milwaukee could see how the lottery plays out. They can get an additional 2026 first and a 2033 first from some of these teams, including New York and Miami. It could hurt Giannis's value a little bit because then he essentially becomes an expiring deal since he's only going to be under contract for one playoff run for one of these teams. He's opting out in 2028. But I just think given the maximum return, it just makes sense for Milwaukee to trade him in June, not February. And if I had to take a guess, I feel like right now the Golden State Warriors feel like they're at the front of the line, although I don't love their trade return at the moment. And for Golden State, like Giannis has to go to the Western Conference to play against the Thunder, the Nuggets, Luka and Anthony Edwards and the Rockets and the Spurs and all these elite teams in the West. If I'm Giannis and I want to cement my legacy and win another NBA title, the best chance for that is in the Eastern Conference. So then that leaves basically the Hawks, the Knicks, the Heat, the Nets, the Pistons. So maybe the Heat finally get their superstar and they land Giannis. So I do feel like if Giannis actually goes to the West, it would be the Warriors. If he goes to the East, it would be the Heat. Maybe I'm trying to reverse jinx that as a New York Knicks fan, and I'd love to know where you guys think Giannis is going to end up. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know down below what your Giannis prediction is, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.